Hello,
There he
hello.
is.
What's going on, Rocky?
How you doing?
I'm chilling, hanging
Technology.
out.
I'm always fired up when this thing actually works. It's like we run a tech company, but the simplest things are always ones that go wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, it's working pretty good right now, I think.
How you doing? Where are you?
I'm in Chicago.
Unique place to select for off-season training.
Yeah. No, I got hooked up pretty good. I've been working out at Northwestern University. They have an amazing indoor facility because outdoors is no longer a option anymore.
Yeah, we in our family we love Chicago, but January, February is typically not the ideal time of year to hang out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining. We've been fired up to reconnect here and pick your brain a little bit more. A number of things we want to check through today. Love to talk a little bit about last season and get your kind of updated learnings from that and how you think it went, and then talk a little bit about next season and goals, and maybe kind of work backwards from goals and hear what you've been up to in the off season, and then hopefully we can kind of work backwards from your goals and think about ways we can give some advice to some of the coaches and kids that might be listening today. So lots to get through, in particular because you had kind of a busy and unique season last year, right? With pitching for a few teams and a couple of trades and being in playoff contention three different times, I guess. So just curious for your take on last season and how it went for you.
Yeah, it started off pretty good. First half was solid. I've been with the White Sox for many years, so I was very comfortable having a pretty good first half. Started the second half off, same kind of deal. But the team itself, like the White Sox, we weren't playing well. So it became very apparent coming up to the trade deadline that I'd probably be dealt along with some other guys. So the time came around and uh, got sent over to the Angels when they were just a few games out from the wild card spot. And yeah, it was kind of like an interesting. I'd been traded before many years ago, but it was in the off season, and then I'd been with the White Sox for so long, so it was pretty weird being traded in the middle of a season. My first time ever experiencing that, but yeah, I kind of got acclimated with the Angels relatively quickly. It was a great group of guys. It was fun playing in Southern California for sure because that's where I'm from. But I just kind of ran into some bad habits, mechanics wise, and a little bit of a mental strain, with the trade and everything. So my performance really started to decline after that trade. And unfortunately, the team was really stricken by a bunch of key injuries. So uh, I was with the Angels for a month, and then they kind of did like a salary dump, put a bunch of guys on waivers, including me. I got picked up by the Guardians. After a month in Southern California, I was off to Cleveland, and I finished the season up there. Kind of the same deal. Like I was just kind of out of sync and not really pitching as well as I would have liked. So, yeah, I mean, uh, great things to say about all the organizations I played for. It was just a little bit of a tough road there at the last couple of months.
I mean, I think the mental strain is difficult for most of us on the outside to appreciate and understand. Of like you've had your life set up in a city, and you got a like very strict daily routine in that city, and with a certain team, a group, be like, on 1 hour notice, somebody has to change their job and move to a new city. You got to do all the things that go around with moving, in addition to starting with a new company. Basically, you got to find a place to live. You got to find all the services that you use within a city. You got to find the places to eat. And you got family considerations and all that. So, I'm curious when you said that you had some mechanical issues and you had some kind of mental strain. Do you think one led to the other, or were those like totally separate issues that popped up?
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I feel that everything's kind of connected. Like if your mind is clear and you're focused and you're kind of in that good state, then it's much easier to make little adjustments mechanically, in my opinion.
Sure.
When you feel more stressed out, um, under more pressure, then sometimes you'll try harder. And when you try harder, things generally don't really work out the way you want them to. You'll get a little bit tighter, maybe move a little bit too quickly or whatever it may be. So yeah, I'd say probably connected. But coming into this offseason, free agent, I found a great home with the Boston Red Sox. I really, really am looking forward to being a part of this organization, very historic organization. I really like everything they got going on. So it's been a very productive offseason, kind of getting back on track for me.
Yeah, and we want to talk about next season and goals and stuff like that too. And obviously, playing for the Red Sox, I can only imagine how fired up you must be for that. So just on the mechanics issues, since a lot of our folks that are probably tuning would be interested in that and are working on their mechanics, what were some of the mechanics issues you felt popped up for you last year?
I'd say, especially towards the end of the year, as I was starting to stack up innings and everything, I'm the type of pitcher, I'm very different than like the like cookie cutter typical right-handed pitcher. Like I really, despite being big, I'm all about staying compact, staying athletic through my delivery. I'm kind of labeled as like a short armor. I don't have like a full, my arm, I don't have like that full like stab arm swing or anything like that. So um, I was over the course of the season, at times starting to get a little bit longer, kind of leaking through my delivery, kind of, or some would call it like rolling through the delivery, instead of like staying back, staying close, staying compact, and then kind of having that like fire late, like after landing, boom, then you go. It was kind of like just like a drift.
Hmm.
Um, and for me, a huge thing is hiding the baseball, using deception to my advantage. And the way I was throwing, it was kind of like showing a little bit too much to the hitters. Um, so, it
Yeah.
led to inconsistencies in location as well as like my deception and stuff, um, leading to a lot more damage than I'd like to see.
Interesting. Yeah. And just to kind of bring that home for some of the mustard users that might be listening, I think in mustard lingo, what you're talking about there is torque retention. So, like one of the variables in the app we look at a lot is whether a pitcher's shoulders have started to open when their front foot lands, right?
Hmm.
And so, I think for an elite pitcher like you, when you're going well, for sure, when your front foot lands normally, when your front foot lands, the shoulder wouldn't have started to open yet at all.
Yeah.
That opening would happen after foot strike. But with a lot of younger pitchers, or just when we're feeling a little bit tight, or if you're not having your best stuff, sometimes we get some leakage early there. I would say a lot of what people are using mustard for, you're getting the metrics, but it's like checking to see how things deviate from outing to outing. And by the way, we're doing that with some major league guys too, just kind of sending report cards, here and there, and checking up on progress. So we encourage people to use the app that way too. So is that mechanical thing something you've been working on a lot this off season? Has that been a focus, or do you feel like it just kind of fixed itself?
It's been a huge focus. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we looking at, like you said, Mustard has these types of kind of like breakdowns within the app that I think are very useful. It's kind of the same thing I was doing, looking at kind of mechanical breakdowns at different points in my delivery, kind of looking at like 3D models that are created based on, the positions I get into, that, the various technologies in Major League ballparks picked up. It was very clear, like visually, and I'm kind of like a visual learner, to see, when I'm throwing 96 miles per hour and it's riding and I'm locating well, this is the position I'm in. When I'm throwing 92 miles per hour, it doesn't have that same zip on it, and I'm kind of missing, especially over the heart of the plate. This is the
Yeah.
position I'm in.
Yeah.
So, use that information to kind of put together a game plan, drills, and things like kind of like things to focus on while throwing, especially in the early stages of throwing. So now I feel like I'm putting myself in much better positions to deliver the ball consistently, hide the ball, and do everything that makes me successful.
Were you able to identify, like, mental process wise, what was happening differently when it was 96, 97 versus when it was 92, 93? What, just to say a little bit more what I mean by that. I think we found a lot talking to guys, and even in my own experience, sometimes you don't realize that your mental key has changed, right? Like you've got a good mental key working for a while, like Nolan Ryan's, you just mentioned, of kind of riding the baseball, but then you start naturally thinking about, well, I want the ball to do this or that.
Hmm.
And maybe it doesn't work for you. It leads to some leakage or something like that. Was there some kind of mental key for you, like, that you had to get back to?
Honestly, like for me, it's like you can feel it. I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's like a feeling you have when like everything's kind of syncing up right. Um, and then especially like after release, like seeing the ball travel the way that it like should, or the way that it like feels good.
Yeah.
um that is kind of like that you get that feeling, you get that satisfaction, you build confidence off of that, and then you just keep repeating that same feeling over and over again. It's kind of like unlearning the bad habits and really um hammering down the good habits. So yeah, I don't necessarily have like one single thought or key, um, other than when it's going good, I just want to drive down my lanes. Like
Mm,
if I'm throwing a glove side fastball, I'm driving that way. If I'm throwing a arm side fastball, I'm driving that way. You know,
I
um,
think
break
that's.
sliders, like obviously I want them most of the time, unless I'm trying to backdoor it, which is very rare. Like I'm going down that lane to make sure that it goes, middle of the plate, outer third of the plate, and then down and off. Um, Change up is always starting middle and letting it fade. So um, I really uh, allow like the growth to happen in like all the drill work I do. I feel that when I'm on the mound and I'm thinking about mechanics, that's when you can get a little bit too tight or locked up. Like um, I might have like a couple mechanical thoughts maybe early in a bullpen. Like I threw a bullpen today. It was 30 pitches. The first 15 pitches, I was kind of feeling things out, throwing different pitches to different locations. And if I didn't execute, I just think for a sec, okay, like what did I feel there? Oh, this got a little bit too high. I spun off. All right. The next one, it's like, all right, quiet that front side down, really just drive through that lane. And then I'd execute it. And it's like, all right, cool, let's stay with that feeling. And then that's like the first 15 pitches of kind of feeling things out, but at the same time keeping it simple. The last 15 pitches, I use a stand-in dummy. I'm moving it righties, lefties, simulating sequences and counts at bats, um, because I feel that if you break it into those two, then you're able to work on things early, but then you're able to get that more like competitive game like practice as well. Because as
Mhm.
pitchers, we can't like, it's not like we can throw 100 pitch bullpens. And we can only throw a pen like every few days, because you have to keep your arm rested and let it recover. So, it's like having that really focused work. It's all the drill work before where it's like, all right, I'll hammer that out until I know I have that feeling, and then I'll let that feeling kind of carry into the actual throwing of the baseball.
Mhm. We want to ask a lot more about some of the things you're doing in the off season, but I always think, and this is like the business training, I guess. We always start with the goals, and what we're kind of looking ahead to, and then work backwards from there. So I'm just curious, going into a new team, new environment, new role. an organization that we've heard, and I think it's been widely reported, was super keen to get you with Craig Brezzo and others being really aggressive about it, understandably so. What are do you have goals for the year? Are there certain things that you're really after to accomplish this year?
Yeah, I don't set a ton of like stat line type goals. The biggest goal I always set for myself is to throw 200 innings. I pride myself on being a starting pitcher that stays healthy, takes the ball every fifth day, and will go out and give my absolute best effort to try and go as deep as I can. Over the course of a season, the bullpen, like the relief pitchers, like they wear it. It is a tough job. So it is on us to, try and lighten that load as much as possible. And I set that 200 inning goal. I haven't achieved it yet. I hope to achieve it this year. Because, and this is something I learned from a veteran guy that I really taught me a lot when I was a young pitcher, like rookie level coming up in the league. If you throw 200 plus innings, a lot of your other stats are probably going to line up pretty good.
Yeah.
Because that means you're going out, you're making 30, 32 starts, and you're throwing 6, 7, 8, 9 innings every single outing. That's going to lead to some good numbers. So, yeah, that's really like the only goal I set for myself, because I kind of pride myself on being a workhorse starter. And if I can achieve that 200 plus inning goal, then a lot of the other stats will take care of themselves.
I think, in business world, that would be like an ideal goal because it's super simple, it's measurable, and it's almost entirely controllable, right? I mean, not 100% controllable, but if you do all of your work and get yourself prepared to the best of your ability, you got probably a majority chance of hitting that goal, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, okay, so now 200 innings, so now the season ends, and you're thinking about getting your body ready for 200 innings the following year. Does that mean you start with some time off? And I know we've talked about this in years past, but I'm curious how you approached it this year.
Yeah, yeah. This off season, I'm coming off of my innings high in my career, so I took a little bit of time off, gave my arm a little bit of a rest. Vacation, all that. Really like, especially after the last couple months of the year, really kind of wanted to get my mind off of baseball, kind of reset. So did that, and then yeah, I mean, started. I started working like lifting weights, working out after maybe a week, but as far as like baseball activity, I really wanted to give myself a bit of a break. So I did that, started up again, just doing some like light plyo ball drills. And after like a couple weeks of that, started picking up the baseball again, along with some of the plyo ball drills, playing light catch, just kind of feeling things out. And then it's just a steady build up from there.
Yep. So then you start throwing, you start going with, yeah, I assume kind of flat ground work and long toss before you get onto a mound.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I like to build up. I like to build up like distance about before I get off a mound. I like to be throwing a relatively far distance and doing some pull downs, like kind of letting the body be loose and letting the ball eat a little bit. So yeah, I don't remember the exact date I threw my first pen this off season. Maybe like 3 weeks ago or something like that. But it was like a steady buildup of like throwing 90 feet, then throwing 100 feet, then, throwing 100 feet again, and throwing 110 feet, 120 feet, until now I'm at a point where it's more like based on the day. Like if it's a day I'm getting off the mound, I like to air it out a little bit. Like I was in the facility this morning throwing my bullpen and well, before throwing the bullpen, I was just like airing balls out into the net, long toss, and then doing some pull downs. Then we get on the mound.
How'd you put your program together this year? I mean, it had to be kind of like a weird off season for you because it's the first time you haven't had a team you knew you were coming back to, right? So I assume usually you would have like your current team giving you a lot of your lifting program and suggested throwing days and
Hmm.
things like that. But this year, I mean, now I assume the Red Sox are giving you stuff, but at first you had to be more on your own, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm fortunate enough that I've been doing this for so long that uh, I have like a good idea of like a progression for myself when it comes to throwing in the off season.
Yeah.
Especially with this offseason in particular, taking that chunk of time off, saying getting away from baseball for a little while and then restarting, I felt that was very beneficial to me. Because instead of like coming right off of the baseball season, it ended very poorly. And then it's like, all right, back to work. It's like I almost like allowed my body to like hit the reset button. So when I came back, I felt fresh. I felt like I was ready to like kind of learn, unlearn some of the stuff I had been doing and just kind of like get back to myself. So yeah, I mean, as far as like throwing progression and all that, I have a relatively good idea in my head. I kind of have my like circle of trust guys I work with. Um, and yeah, we're able to put together a good program. And then obviously once I signed with the Red Sox, it's like constant communication with them and, um, being able to get everything ramped up and ready for spring training, which we're heading out to in a couple weeks now.
What kind of folks are in the circle of trust? Like, I'm just curious. I think it's helpful for younger pitchers to think about like the categories of advice they ought to be getting. So, like, do you have a strength person? Do you have do you still talk to, an old pitching coach on mechanics? What are the categories of folks?
Yeah, yeah. You said it right there. I have my like strength conditioning guy I've been working with for many years, and then same thing on the pitching side. Pitching coach I've been working with for many many years. Um, I really think for a young player that has like aspirations of being a big league pitcher, or a college pitcher, whatever it may be. Um, you find the people that believe in you, that want the best for you, um, and that you trust, and be open to ideas, open to coaching, um, and at the same time, like knowing yourself. It's like you try something, I don't know, this doesn't feel great. Like you have that level of trust with whoever you're working with that you can communicate that. You're not like scared to say, I don't know about this drill, or I don't know about this exercise. Maybe we can try something else. I feel fortunate enough to have a bunch of people like that around me where I'm able to bounce ideas and figure out, what works best for me.
For the pitching guy, how often are you throwing with him in person, like making sure he has eyes on you, versus how often are you just kind of talking more remotely?
Um, try to be in person as often as possible, but at the same time, like I said, I've been doing this for so long that sometimes all that's needed is just a quick conversation after, or maybe take a video or two, something like that, or just talk about feel like this is how it felt. Okay, cool. Like next time, let's focus on this. All right, cool, done.
Yeah. Well, I ask because what we find in working with a lot of young pitchers, high school age and even much younger than that, is they usually have a coach around. They usually have somebody who's pretty good on the emotional side and the support side and kind of inspiration. But most of the time, it's not a pitching person. And so that's where we find we're maybe even being most helpful is supporting those coaches, basically being their like pitching consultant in their pocket,
Hmm.
making sure they have best information, making sure they have like constant eyes on the pitcher because we can kind of provide the eyes even when they're away from the pitcher with the computer vision tech. So if there's coaches listening and they want to talk about us helping on that, they're welcome to DM us or email. But that's something we've been passionate about, helping good coaches that are helping kids. And obviously for you, you're in a different situation because you got world-renowned coaches that are around when you need them to be, but you've also kind of developed all of the knowledge yourself. So for the last couple of weeks of the off season here before you head back to spring training, what are the goals? Where are you trying to get your body ready for before you show up in camp?
Yeah, so I really like where I'm at currently. Um, on the strength and conditioning side, continuing to stay with my program, um, maintain weight and, keeping the strength, flexibility, stability in all the areas. And then on the pitching side, just kind of like continuing to like build up a little bit more volume and bullpens, get the arm primed and ready for spring training, and continue to get good quality reps of like that good consistent feeling that I have been feeling this off season. I'm a believer that like if you're doing it right and you keep doing it right over and over again, then it's going to become that kind of muscle memory feeling. Because when you're out there and you're competing and you're in that situation, you might, that second and third, one out. You don't want to be like thinking about your mechanics. uh, those need to be like ingrained and ready to go so you can just focus on executing the sequence you want to execute to get out of that situation.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, I continue to do my drills, feel that correct feeling, which for me, like I was saying earlier, it's staying closed, it's staying compact, staying back and having that like explosion through late.
Yeah.
Letting the arm kind of be that like catapult at the end of everything. Um, so just continuing to hammer that in and uh, like I said, get the volume up and then head out to spring.
You mentioned the mental side. I mean, I think that's always an interesting thing for a lot of our folks, especially for somebody like you in the off season, where you're trying to prepare for these like unforeseeable circumstances, right? I mean, you started talking about a specific game situation you might face, and to some extent, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But there are things you're doing in the off season to prepare yourself mentally to deal with stressful situations, unforeseeable circumstances. And you've always had some unique things you're doing. So can you share any kind of like the mental stuff you might be up to this off season?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, I've done a bunch of cool stuff. This off season, I'm a fan of sports psychology. I think it's important. I've dealt with all sorts of things in the past when it comes to anxiety and stuff like that while pitching. Um, so, I was talking about like that circle of trust. I have a sports psychologist I've worked with for years who's within that. So developing a good plan of action with him, that's hugely important. Um, and then when it comes to like actual, like when you're doing it, I really find value, especially, I'm not facing hitters right now. I'm throwing pens, whether it be like having a guy stand in or using a stand in dummy and like putting yourself, visualizing yourself in that situation. It's like, here I am in Fenway Park facing the Yankees and it's, bases loaded. And, Aaron Judge is up to hit. And it's like, all right, cool. Come set, check the runners, everything. Even though I'm sitting in an indoor facility on a an indoor mound, it's like I'm in that situation right now.
I love
And
it.
you know, let's go get him. The heater away, cool. Let me execute that pitch. Slider away, change it, whatever it may be. Putting importance in each of those throws because you only have so many to practice.
Yeah, our mental performance coach Jason Goldsmith talks about the power of visualization all the time. I mean, you're going to be in that situation next year, Red Sox
Mhm.
Yankees rivalry. You're going to face Judge, and the hope is you'll feel like you've done it before, right?
Exactly.
And I think a lot of young pitchers can get similar things done, right? I mean, they might be visualizing facing big leaguers, but they're practicing dealing with that stress, which is maybe the most important thing. And by the way, look, I think for anybody that's an athlete, like we all deal with anxiety like that, and for young pitchers, um, I just think it's super helpful to hear from somebody like you who's at the top of the profession, and to hear you're still dealing with stuff like that. I think that's comforting for a lot of folks. So I appreciate that you shared that. I think that's super important in and
Yeah,
of itself.
I think we all do to a certain degree. I'm envious of a guy that goes out there and like, there's like nothing.
Right, right.
I've had games like that before, and those are some of my best games, where the mind is completely clear and you just go out and kind of let everything happen. But it takes practice, and I think visualization is like the best possible practice that you can do to achieve that as consistently as possible.
Away from the mental side for the last few minutes here. So can you just take us through kind of a weekly schedule? Like how many times a week are you lifting? How many times are you getting off the mound? Cardio, running, what kind of stuff are you doing in that world?
Yeah. So, uh, um, unlike in baseball season when we're on like that 5 day schedule or 6 day schedule, it's for me in the off season. It's more of a 7 day work week. Um, as far as lifting goes, Monday is a lower body day. Tuesday is an upper body day. Wednesday is going to be that um, kind of like agility, mobility, moving around, practicing like athletic movements and stretching and all that kind of stuff. I don't really know what to call it. It's just a bunch of that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And then Thursday back to a lower body lift. Friday is an upper body lift. Shoulder program. I think another thing that can kind of be overlooked sometimes
Hmm.
for younger pitchers. That's kind of mixed in on the upper body days. Since I'm already lifting weights for the upper body, that's kind of when I'm hammering out all the little exercises for, keeping the rotator cuff and elbow and everything nice and strong and loose. Um, so that kind of covers the like workout side of it. Pitching wise, throwing wise, once we get into bullpens, it's like I want to throw off a mound. Uh, let's say I throw a bullpen on Monday. I'm going to want to be off the mound again, but it depends on where you're at in the off season. It's like I throw a bullpen Monday. All right, I'm probably gonna take 3 days off before I get them off a mound again. Right now, we're kind of in that stage of like 3 days off before we get off a mound again. But then in a week or a week and a half, it's going to be like 2 days off, then get off the mound again. Um, but we've been at the same time building like my first bullpen. I threw 10 pitches, all fastballs, and then 15 and then 20. All right, now we're mixing in changeups, and now I'm throwing 30 to 35 pitches in the pen, mixing in spin, doing sequences, ramping it up a little bit more. But yeah, um, generally it's broken down like in this current stage. If I throw a bullpen Monday, Tuesday, um, especially if I'm lifting upper body as well, it's going to be more of a recovery light day. Maybe get out to 100, 120 feet, but I'm not doing like crazy pull down. I'm not doing crazy flat ground work. Maybe just spinning a few, feeling some stuff out, and that's it. Um,
Hmm.
and then the next day, ramp it up a little bit more, but it's still not like I'm still not like long tossing as far as I can or anything like that. Then the next day, I'm back off a mound. Okay, cool. I'm gonna let it eat. I'm gonna get that long toss in. I'm gonna get some pull downs in, and then we're gonna get that quality work in off the mound. Um, I like to throw plyo balls. I have a plyo ball routine. I'm gonna be doing that every day that I throw baseballs in the off season. But the amount of reps and the amount of like the effort level is going to be tapered based on what type of throwing day it is. So a day like today, it's that bullpen day. I do my full program. Um, I throw some off the mound as well. I use the core velocity belt for that. Different various like kind of drills for feeling the slope and throwing the plyo balls. I'm kind of doing the full run of it. whereas like tomorrow will be a recovery day. I'll probably cut the reps in half and the effort level will be much lower.
Hmm.
You know, it's very based on feel. And so, you know, there might be a day where it's my bullpen day, but I might be feeling a little bit sore. Maybe I'll take a step back, not throw as many plow balls, or maybe not put as much effort off the mound. Maybe cut the reps, you know, maybe instead of 30, I'll throw 25, something like that. But up to this point in the off season, the arm's been feeling great, the body's been feeling great. So I've just been progressing pretty good.
That was thorough. Thanks for going through that. I assume, by the way, that you're throwing before you're lifting, like in a given day.
Yeah.
Does lifting
Yeah.
come second?
Yeah, the goal is always to throw before lifting, especially upper
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
Um, there's been a few instances just because of scheduling, I've lifted before. So it's the same kind of thing. It's like, okay, I'm lifting upper body before throwing. That might, you know, I'm gonna keep that thought in mind when I go out and throw. It's like, okay, let's maybe keep it a little bit lighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, I don't like to stick to like super rigid programming. Like I have the program, I have the progression, but there's always room for like how the body feels. You know, to quote a good old friend of mine, Alan Jaeger, with the Jaeger program, it's like listen to your arm, you know?
Hmm. I don't know if Alan's listening or not. He usually is, but I'll make sure he heard that clip.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Yeah, he used to say the same thing.
Doing barbell chest presses, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm not as a pitcher, I'm not really interested in like getting a bunch of giant pec and shoulder and back muscles. Um, it's more about having really good strength in a lot of those core smaller
Hmm.
muscles, and then good mobility throughout. Obviously, you want to have strength, but you know, when it comes to like a lot of my upper body program, we're gonna have a lot of like push-up variations. When it comes to like pressing, it's gonna be dumbbells. It's gonna be you know, maybe incline dumbbell bench press. I'm not just trying to rep out like barbell bench press or anything like that. You know, you're gonna have uh, I'm gonna have a lot of like with like a cable, for instance, like, you know, I don't know the names of these exercises. It's just like I see them and I know them, you know, that type
Yeah,
of
yeah,
thing. But it's like, you know, having a cable, having it up high and then like pulling it down, like twisting, allowing like, you know, working on that rotation aspect as well. Um, you know, just kind of hitting those kinds of points as opposed to like their traditional upper body lift, which is going to be like the, you know, buys, tries, chest. It's a little more specialized for a guy like me.
yeah. We had somebody ask us yesterday. They're a pitcher and then a running back in football,
Hmm.
and we're trying to put together a lifting program. And I was like, that was one that actually I thought was pretty challenging. Like we really want people to play multiple sports. I think it gets complicated on the lifting programs because it's health first for lifting. You know, from our standpoint, and I think that's what you're describing too. It's like how do you get mobility? How do you get arm health? Well, in football, you need some muscle mass, and that might not be the best thing for a pitcher. So you can get into some complicated walking the line situations there. But I think for the pure pitchers that are listening to this, what you described is super important. Focus on arm care, focus on mobility, and then it's strength and velocity gains after that. Is that fair?
Yeah, yeah. Any exercise I'm doing, especially with upper body, let's say it's like I'm doing an incline chest press, right? I'm not just trying to rep out like 100 pounds in each hand. You know, it's more like I want to make sure that like I have strength here and I'm maintaining that strength all the way through the full range of motion. So if you need to taper down the weight a little bit, all right, you taper down the weight a little bit. You know, I don't want to sacrifice um, correct form and hitting maintaining strength, maintaining stability through all, through the whole range of motion for just pure like, oh, I want to push this weight. You know what I mean?
Some of the trainers we work with, and I know particularly a lot of golfers on the PGA Tour, they've got these cables in the tour trucks now that the whole point is they have the same level of resistance throughout the
Hmm.
motion, right? So as opposed to a dumbbell or a cable or a band that might have different resistances at different points, the point of these cables is, first of all, they're really mobile and you can put them anywhere and you can do the twisty and single leg exercises you're describing. But second of all, it's the same amount of tension out here as it is back here. So you're working all those different little muscles. So that's something to your point, people might want to look into.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I might want to look into that.
Oh,
That's
well,
great.
I'll send it to you. Yeah, we've got some links. We can happy to put them up for all the listeners too. Listen, really appreciate you doing this. I mean, busy off season for you, busy season last year, and yeah, we can't wait to see you crush it next year in Boston. Fun place to have a great year, and we just think you're set up really well, and always honored that you're a part of Team Mustard and sharing insights with all of our folks. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Rocky. Always a pleasure. And then, yeah, next time, maybe we do a little content during the bullpen that we can walk through everything.
We'd love to set that up. We'll be in touch
Perfect.
about it. Yeah. Um, Go get them, man. We'll look forward to
All
watching
right.
you.
Sounds
Thank you.
good.
All right.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for being